Davey's my puppet, and I'm a voice actor, and he hates voice actors.
Welcome to another episode of Chewing the Fat. I am your host, Big Rob. Thank you so much for tuning in, downloaded podcast. I certainly do appreciate that. And of course, I appreciate the support from the folks that have bought me a coffee at chewingthefatbr.com. It helps keep the lights on, and I really do appreciate that. And it helps us to keep telling those beautiful, messy human stories. And in front of me now from the Atlanta area, please welcome one of my favorite beautiful, messy humans. It's Cara Leighty. Cara.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Better that you're here with me.
Aw, you're such a sweetheart. Cara and I met, I think, at my very first VO Atlanta.
Yeah.
3 years ago now. So
yeah.
I've been
That's crazy.
Invading her atmosphere for 3 years.
It's all good.
I just can't. I can't get away. I can't get away.
I love it.
Cara, is that Atlanta area? Is that home? Like born and raised?
No. I was born in New Hampshire, so I'm a Yankee technically, and I've been in the South probably longer than I've lived in the North. So I don't know what I'm considered now. A Southerner, I guess, maybe now.
Carpetbagger or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, so New England, so Southern New Hampshire. I was born in Keene. I always tell people where they filmed the good Jumanji movie. My dad and several people were extras in that movie.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. He got to meet, I know somebody that met Robin Williams, and he had I'll tell you this really quick story. He had a lovely experience with Kirsten Dunst's mom. And she was kind of freaking out, like worried about, having protections for her daughter. And my dad was like, listen, nobody's going to get her here. Like, we're in New Hampshire. There's no threat there except maybe a black bear. But yeah, so that's where I grew up.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what? So you're a voice actor now,
yes,
and a puppeteer,
yes.
which is also very, very cool. Was that something as you were growing up in like grade school, high school that you were into? Were you into the drama and stuff like that?
Yeah, it was really funny because as a kid, I did what every kid did. Well, most kids, probably the weird kids, is, mimicking voices from cartoons. And I was really into The Simpsons, which is probably inappropriate for my age back then. But, I would just imitate Marge's voice, and my family was like, oh, wow, you do a really good job of that. And I never really thought about it. And then I got involved in theater. I grew up doing musical theater. I worked production backstage. Did kind of like on stage and behind scenes stuff. So, which I highly recommend, if you're a creative of any sort, learning what everybody does to help you do what you do, is key. And building relationships was huge for me, even at a young age. So yeah. And then, fast forward, I thought I was going to get into the news, end of broadcast media. Oh. And yeah, so I went to school for communication. So, but always made videos as a kid, always made content, funny stuff. We used to do spoofs on Are You Afraid of the Dark? Like, all that stuff. Fashion shows. It was like we would make up our own MTV spring break shows or something.
Oh my gosh.
It was nothing crazy, but, just like stupid things, but always creating, basically.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Was home a kind of a creative place to be? Was mom and dad creative or musicians or anything like that?
Yeah. So my mom sang in her uncle's band. But she didn't really go around and perform. But my dad was very heavily involved in the theater and the arts locally, and got quite a few roles. And even when he got, how there's always politics with theater and community theater, it was always the same people getting the same parts all the time. Yeah. And so my dad would get a role, but he would make it more memorable on stage. And so he's very gifted. He was always very gifted in theater and the arts. He actually, at one point before I was born, was actually got selected to play in some like major Broadway, not on Broadway, but it was a touring show.
Oh, wow.
It was some like big gig that he was going to be a backup, whatever they call those. I always forget the term.
Standby.
Standby, or there's another technical term for it in theater.
Swings are also standby people. So there's
standby, I don't
swings.
Remember. I don't know, but it was something like that. Yeah. So, but I think at the time, maybe like my mom ended up getting pregnant with my oldest sister. So then he had to kind of drop out of that. But yeah, he was very much heavily into arts. That's kind of where I get my kookiness from him. And he also did stand-up comedy.
Oh, wow.
And he would do impressions of Christopher Lloyd from Taxi. And yeah, my dad's super funny.
That's
super
awesome.
Funny guy.
That is awesome. So yeah, that's what a great, incubator for your talent and creativity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Definitely.
Well, what brought you to Atlanta from the New England area?
New England? Well, I basically, because my parents really invested with all of my sisters and the three younger ones, we were very much into the arts, and they wanted more opportunity for us. So we had lived in Florida in the early 90s and moved back to New Hampshire. And so in the year 2000, we moved back down to Florida, near Orlando, because my parents wanted us to have more opportunity, which then we did have more opportunity. And so I was living there from like 2000 to 2007 until I met my husband, and he was, he's born in California, but was pretty much grew up in Atlanta, in Marietta. And I know I shouldn't say Atlanta if it's Marietta, because the Atlantans would get mad at me. But it's like, oh my God, they're so weird. So he was here, and I met online through AOL Instant Messenger via a friend that was dating his brother. Yeah. And we dated long distance for like a year and a half or a year and 4 months, and we got engaged. And then another year after that, then we got married. But our whole relationship was pretty much, he was up here in Georgia and I was down there in Florida. And then I moved up here to Atlanta area. So yeah.
That's awesome.
In 2007. Mm-hmm.
So when you were down in the Florida area, did you work for the Mouse any, I'm assuming? Did you do their college program or do it?
I never did. No. Wow. And I don't know why, but my high school, I was very involved in chorus. And so I would go to districts and state competitions for chorus. And I was in a little doo-wop group called Ladies Only. That's what we called it. And we went to district and state and got superior. And so I competed on a vocal end of things. And I also was on the dance team at my school. And then I was a pretty active dancer. Like I used to do ballet and tap as a kid. And then I got more into like hip hop. And I ended up getting a gig with a good friend of mine now that was a female rapper in Orlando. Through a studio that I brought my sister for a clinic, a vocal clinic. And the guy at that studio worked with like Britney Spears and all these people. His name is Gary Williams. He has an amazing, he tours with this group right now because I reconnected with him. He has an amazing like Stevie Wonder tribute band. Wow. And my husband and I went to go see it. It was amazing. So that's basically awesome. Got connected with him. I sang with my sisters, did a couple cover songs in the studio there. But yeah, never really did the Disney thing other than whenever we would perform at Epcot for the Candlelight Processional for high school. But yeah, I had friends that worked for Disney. They were, character workers and had one friend double dipping in Disney and Universal. Oh. And you're not allowed to do that. But
just don't mention their name.
No, I'm not. No, that was years ago. But yeah, I never got into the Disney end of things. I kind of was dead set on more of the, because during like the early 2000s, it was about pop groups and NSYNC was big and Christina. And so me and my sisters were more on that line of sight. But we would perform everywhere, like nursing homes and, what was it? We perform at campgrounds. My dad would get us into everything. He would create variety shows for us to sing at. Yeah. So, but I never really got involved with the Mouse too much. So
that's awesome, though. Yeah. That's really cool. That's really cool.
So yeah, we're just very, very much, actively singing and all that stuff. And a fun fact is like my parents would purposely shut off the TV. And I sort of feel like now maybe it's because they couldn't afford to pay for the satellite. But then when we were in New Hampshire, my parents would shut off everything in the summer. So then we would like practice and sing and do all those things. So, which was always really neat. But yeah, we were always singing and doing weird stuff at my house.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. So once you, met Brian and you moved to Atlanta.
Yeah.
What, did your trajectory change and what you're like? I mean, you've got a communications, journalism type, degree where you're like, all right, well, because there's lots of news stations, there's the Weather Channel, there's all kind of stuff in Atlanta. So, I mean, were you like, all right, I'm going to go do this instead of singing with my sisters or?
Yeah. I mean, over time, like, we weren't performing as much. I got busy going to school. And then I started to focus again, like on my career and what I wanted to do. And it was funny, trying to choose a college and choose a degree or a field. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. My mom was like, you should get into news. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that sounds interesting, and and I always like created videos and I would create little radio shows with my sister. So I was like, yeah, I think like communication is a good outlet for me. So once I graduated in 2007, I actually graduated after I got married. So I had to go back down because I wanted to walk because I was like, I've been going to this. I went to Florida Southern College and I was like, I was going on campus. I was paying my way through school by myself and with scholarships and grants and different things and lots of loans. But, I was like, I deserve to walk, so I walked and graduated. And I was working in a television station that was called PGTV, is Polk Government Television. And it was in Bartow, Florida. And I was mostly it was an internship. And so I had to do it for my class. And then once I ended my schooling that summer before I graduated in December, they had offered me to work there. But I told them, well, I'm about to get married, but I'll work here X amount of months and then I'll be going. So I thought, Atlanta, CNN's up here, like you were saying, the Weather Channel.
Yeah.
And so, but unfortunately, the recession hit in 2008 and it was just hard to try to find work. And I did do an interview with CNN, but it was CNN Espanol. And I knew a fair amount of Spanish, but let me tell you, that was the scariest interview I've ever done because they asked me a question in Spanish and you had to respond to them in Spanish. And it was for like a master control job. It was working behind the scenes,
Yeah.
And needless to say, that didn't really work out. But, and then I was like, you know what? I don't really know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to be in news. I want a family. I want to, have a life. And I know, not saying news people, you don't have a life, but also, you have to wake up at 3 a.m., to be at work at 4 or whatever. And I just didn't really see that as something I wanted to do. And so quickly I was like, and the recession. So I was like getting whatever jobs I could find. I was working at my church. I was working at Bath and Body Works in the mall. And then fast forward, I had my kids and I needed like a creative outlet. So then I started on the YouTube path. So I started creating content because I was at home and I, had all this creativity and I was like, I needed an outlet for that. So yeah, it was interesting, but the voiceover part of it didn't really, I kind of would do things here and there. I helped out my husband. He worked at a station downtown in Atlanta called AIB. It's called Atlanta Interfaith Broadcasters. And he was with them right out of school. And so every time I would visit him when we were dating and I would fly up on AirTran, shout out $70 tickets. It was so cheap when they had that airline. It was great because I was in college. But, I would kind of help out on different projects here and there. But I didn't really, it was funny because and people that I talk to all the time, they say the same thing. Like they just don't know how to get into voiceover. And I didn't really think of it as like a possibility, I guess. Maybe I didn't really think of it as this whole huge industry in and of itself, But yeah, so that's kind of my journey-ish.
Yeah, but you're right. That's a lot of folks are like, well, obviously I hear the commercials and I hear the cartoons, and it's like, how do I how do I do that?
Yeah.
You know, and for a long while it was a lot of location based. Like you needed to be in New York, you needed to be in Los Angeles type stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, and now since the COVID lockdown, it's become it's
more
it's
accessible.
Not that and it's not that the technology was not accessible to us, the user at the time. The production companies have become more accepting of that the quality is actually just as good as if you were to walk into the studio.
Definitely.
Excuse me. So it does make it more accessible to be able to get into that.
Yeah, and maybe that was kind of why I sort of take it as more of a God thing in my case. I sort of feel like I kind of have made this like really big circle around doing the things that were all kind of affiliated with voiceover, but I was trying to do the singing thing and be in entertainment. Then I tried to do content creation, and then that wasn't really working out. And then it wasn't until around COVID where I was like, God, what do I need to be doing? I don't really know what my direction is. I know that you've given me these gifts, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do with them. And I took a fast from creating content and happened to see a video about a Simless challenge that my friend Kritzia did. And when I got back online, I was like, oh, that seems like fun. And who is this girl that does voiceover? I want to look into this. And that's kind of where, I don't know, the rest is history. But yeah, it was around COVID, and I sort of feel like that it's in God's timing. I mean, I totally believe that. I feel like it's, I sort of always kind of did the things that would ultimately help me with the thing that I'm doing now. And it's, I had an idea of what I wanted, but, God had this, he knows the greater picture. So,
right.
But yeah.
No, that's great. And then was it later in your journey as a voice actor and things like that you acquired the interest in puppeteering?
Yeah. So 3 years in, I started VO in 2021 training, and about 2023, the end of 2023, I was like, I think I want to get into puppets because I've always liked it. I'm an 80s baby. And so literally everything we watched as 80s babies, late 70s, 80s, all puppets. And so I've always had an interest, but I'm not one of those like puppeteers that I'm like, oh my God, I'm just so passionate since I was 2. And, who is the one guy? John, I think it's Tartaglia. I forget what his last name is. And there's pictures of him with puppets at a young age. Like, I was never like that, or I know another puppeteer, Raymond Carr, and his parents were, they would do like clowning and puppetry, and like they went on like, tours and stuff, would do these shows. I never did that. I never did puppets as a kid. I mean, I probably played with them here and there, but I always was interested because puppets are hilarious to me. And every time I watch the Muppets, it's just like, it's just hilarious. Like all the puppet stuff is so hilarious. And so about a couple years or a few years in or whatever, I started to kind of take some classes with one of my friends and colleagues, Nate Beagle. And I started with my hand at first. And I didn't have a puppet. And then the following year, I ended up getting my puppet, Davey, from Blank Puppets in Salt Lake City, Utah. And and that's kind of what I did. I've just been, and I'm continuing to take, coaching and classes and training. And the virtual stuff's harder with puppets, because especially like some of my earlier coaching, I had to like sit down here, like on the ground or on my stool with my hand in the air, and it gets really hot in my booth, and it was a pain because you want to be able to stand with puppetry because that's where, at least monitor puppet work like Sesame Street and Muppets. I've been fortunate enough to take classes with so many incredible puppeteers that do so many amazing things professionally, and were in shows that I watched as a kid, worked with people that I watched as a kid, So it's an ever learning process, that and VO, obviously. Yeah. You're never done learning.
And it's a different skill set for sure. But I mean, you having the communications background, that kind of helps out some with setting up the camera and sight lines for the puppet and things like that.
The technical part. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's still hard. It's hard to film yourself with a puppet. And a lot of the content I do is like me conversing with myself. And our video we made at VO Atlanta, I was like, okay, well, now I'm going to go here. And then you got to do this. And then now I'm going to do this part, I mean, it makes it exciting. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of technical, not only with creating the content and the equipment, but also like learning how to manipulate a puppet. It's really, people just think it's so easy and it's really difficult, getting eye lined and all that stuff and emotions and, turning your puppets.
The stamina.
Yeah.
The stamina from just holding your hand up.
It's exhausting.
And,
and I haven't even done anything crazy yet. Just doing what I'm doing or just even taking a class, like I can imagine being on Sesame Street all day. Like some of my colleagues, I'm like, you got to you build your muscles.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
for sure.
It's definitely, but it's fun.
Yeah. No. And Davey's great. Don't tell him I said that.
Okay, I won't.
It will go straight to his head. Don't tell him I said that.
Okay, I won't.
Davey's great.
Okay.
What you bring to Davey is great.
Thank you.
Is that, I mean, obviously, with doing VO and doing, you kind of can do both. You can do, you know what I mean? It's a great way to have a creative outlet.
Yeah.
Is there, do you want to do more of that? I mean, what would be something that you would want to do as far as like puppetry goes, outside of Sesame Street or, the Muppet Show or something like?
Yeah. I mean, for me, obviously I'm a believer. And so I want to do something that's going to build God's kingdom. And so ultimately doing some kind of funny, lighthearted, it doesn't have to be preschool show, but some, a show kind of like Sesame Street, but maybe mixed with Pee Wee Herman, but about God, not in your face stuff, because people get turned off, obviously, but, just fun, loving, silly, kind of nostalgic, something with that, because everybody, I mean, I'm in classes with people that are, I want to be on Sesame Street, and the puppeteers are like, obviously everybody kind of wants to do that. But, the big thing is like, can you create your own stuff? And you can. And so I've started kind of like, I built Davey's personality around the fact he's a puppet and he's my puppet and I'm a voice actor and he hates voice actors. It's kind of sort of this disdain, but then he wants to be in the booth and do stuff like, I'm still in the beginnings of creating that world for him and trying to see where that takes me. And I've got so many people, including you, that are so supportive of that art that I have. And it's a very niche sort of thing to be a voice actor and a puppeteer. There's, I go into classes and agents and things are like, oh, that's interesting. And, I've had other voice talent be like, that's your thing. Like you need to tell people that's what you do. But it's very niche. And so in turn, it's very difficult to try to figure out who to talk to, what connections to get, where to go. And I'm kind of in a space right now to where I'm, I kind of have direction, but at the same time, I'm being a little bit patient because I feel like God's going to open the right doors, and he has already, like to people that are like, hey, would you be interested in doing this? I'm not sure, if we can work with you yet. We don't really have an idea, but we want to do this, and it's like based on like faith-based stuff or kids curriculum content or stuff like that. But I don't know. There's so many, like now there's so many puppeteers making their own content about faith and all that stuff that for me, like, it's like I want obviously to do that, but I don't want to do the same thing. So I'm just in my own little corner, kind of like being like, well, what can I do? Mister Burns, or whatever. Well, I don't know. That was a bad, but I can't do it as a impression. But, or what's Smithers? Oh my God. But it's been a lot of fun. And of course, as a voice actor, when I first started training with Nate, he was like, you know what, you kind of have an in already. Now it's, from being a voice actor, because you know how to bring a character to life. And even then I was still pretty green, I think. I've definitely grown now to, trying to understand where my vocal wheelhouse is and characters. But yeah, he was like, you definitely have that end of things. So they're not having to teach me that part. Like it's more of the manipulation and the doing the rod arms and all that stuff. And, going the right direction when your puppet leaves the camera, because it's opposite, that sort of stuff. But yeah, I just want to do something fun and, that's going to be positive and good for little ears and share the love and light of Jesus. That's really what I want to do. And I don't know what that entails, but I'm here whenever it happens. If it happens, we'll see.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. And you've got a few of your own brood up there. Are they creative like you are? Your kids?
Oh, my kids. Yeah. I mean, they're kind of more like, actually, both my kids are kind of more nerdy, like my husband. But they're very talented. One of them doesn't really like being in front of the audience. The other one's kind of getting a little bit more comfortable with wanting to do like chorus and maybe drama next year. And actually, she just made the news team. So she's going to be on the news team next year. But yeah, I mean, it's nothing that I've ever, because for me as a kid, and I love my parents and I love my dad, but, he was sort of more of like that stage dad person. Like he wasn't super pushy, but he was always, like I said, he always found a way to get us on the stage. But sometimes it was, it was kind of like I felt like he was trying to live vicariously through us, and it was more of like, because as we got older and our passions changed and my path changed as a creative, I felt that I didn't have as much support versus whenever I was like, 17 and wanted to be a pop singer. You know what I mean? Like, and so for me, I try not to force my kids to do any of the art stuff. My son is very musically gifted. He has Asperger's. So like, he's very like numbers and like smart and like super good with like music. If you're really good with math, you're good with music. And I was never really good at like playing an instrument. Like I took piano 2 times in my life, like consecutively, like split apart by many years. And I just never took it seriously. But I've always been really good at like, I can kind of play at the piano and play by ear. I've always been really good at it, but I just never, and maybe that's because I had ADHD. I don't know. I've never been diagnosed. And I feel like maybe that, I mean, it's just like, I just never took that stuff. So my son's very gifted in that. My daughter shows no interest in musical instruments, but she definitely loves to sing and loves to dance and all that stuff. So she's done dance quite a few times, but yeah, we're definitely I'm the more extroverted, crazy, creative person here, but they like it, to some degree. They tolerate it, basically.
There you go. That's always good. It's always good when they tolerate. Yeah. As long as they don't like call you cringe.
No. They actually call me cool. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, there you hey. Yeah. You've won. Apparently you've won. If your kids call you cool, you've won.
I know. I'm like, well, thanks. I was like, well, you may not think that in a few years, but sure, I'll take it now.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh, God.
That's great. That's great. So aside from the work that you do in, voiceover and puppetry and the family, what's bringing you joy?
For me, I don't know. It's always hard for me, like when people ask like, hey, what are your hobbies? Or I have to like write out, what I like doing. It all kind of involves with the arts. Like, for me, like, I've, I guess I would say, creative arts at my church and singing. And actually our worship team and creative team has been doing like a Bible study, which, we've been trying to do pretty consistently to kind of have that, life on life together. Because I think that's so important, because I think as a creative, especially as a voice actor, we're just in here all the time and talking to ourselves. And I have friends, but I have friends that are, I moved a lot as a kid, between New Hampshire and Florida. That I was talking to my husband the other night. I never really was good. I'm good at making friends. I'm good at adapting, but I noticed I'm not really good at like having like a like really, really close, personal friend, and so that's something I've been trying to work on that I think will kind of help to, bring me joy. Because you get kind of like lonely. And of course I have you as a friend. I have all these friends, but I don't live near you. If I lived, we're not that far away, but like if I lived closer, but even I live close to some people and I still don't go meet people or see people and hang out. And I'm like, and I'm a very extroverted person. I was like, maybe I'm becoming more introverted, but yeah.
I feel like I've started to become a little bit more introverted myself just because of the nature of what we do.
I think that's,
we are in our studios and we have to be in the quiet space. And so we're kind of are stuck in our heads with ourselves a lot. Yeah. And so, but not that we've chosen it. It's not like anyone's holding a gun to our heads and make us do this, but it's kind of, I've said it before, and Rob Paulson said it at VO Atlanta in his keynote. It's like, if you got something inside you and you can't not do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like that's how I approach it. Is like, I can't not create. I can't not do this work. I can't not be a part of it.
Well, especially when the doors start opening and you realize that, for me, like, I really feel like God has this path for me. Once I started down this path, I didn't have any doubt because I was like, I think I finally figured out what I want to be when I grow up at like 30 something, but it's true. We do tend to isolate ourselves and in that, obviously we sort of become like little hobbits and just stay in our space and like don't go out. And for me, like, I love doing like karaoke, those things bring me joy, like going out. And so this year I've been trying to be more intentional, and with relationships and with like getting out there and doing things. And, my family and I went, to Sweetwater Creek Park and went hiking. I was like, I want to do more of that, those sorts of things give me joy. Just spending time with my family, like they're pretty cool. And flying in our airplane. I like that, which is really cool.
You have an airplane?
Yes, it's a small airplane. Yeah. That my husband is a sport pilot. So he does it for hobby. So he doesn't do it for work. But yeah, we bought an airplane and, debt free because we're completely debt free family.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so we take Ruby out and we'll just be like, if he's going out to fly and it's a good day, he'll ask me if, I'm able to fly. Sometimes he'll bring the kids. He can only take one at a time. But yeah, like that's pretty cool. And I think as we get older, just doing more of that and doing like kind of like these impromptu trips and stuff. I like doing that. It's really fun. Just kind of checking out the cute little podunk airports around the South.
Well, I've told you should come to Daniel Field here.
He's like, we need to go see your friend over there. So he knows. Yeah. He knows.
That's awesome.
Maybe we will then. And we can go.
Maybe. I love how you're like, oh, yeah, we're going to. Maybe.
No, we will. It
keeps getting less and less the more you talk.
No. I want to. No, it'll be good. I always love it's just cool, like exploring. Everybody's like, oh, I want to travel and explore the world. But I mean, the United States is huge, and one of my husband's goals is to, by the age 50 or when he's in his 50s, he wants to travel fly through all states, Oh,
wow.
So, awesome. Obviously we can't go to Hawaii or whatever, but, he can fly. I mean, there's so much to see in the U.S.
Yes, the contiguous 48.
Yeah. So really not 50 states, but, 48. But by 50, he wants to do. So, so yeah. So, I mean, I guess I don't know if that answered your question, but,
I feel like it's answered my question.
Maybe. I don't know. I guess I need more hobbies too. I don't know. Anybody have any ideas what to do? I don't know. Because I can't go to concerts. They're too expensive. Although I am going to Dave Matthews. I told my husband, I was like, when the tickets went out, I was like, we have to get tickets because they went so fast last time, and it's like, and it's so ridiculously expensive. But I won't be going to Coachella ever because that's lame. I mean, it's fine if you want to go, but I mean, it's just crazy. It's just, I don't want to be around that many people. That's where my introverted personality would come out. But you know how people are like, oh, I like to go to concerts, like to do this, you know. Sure, that'd be great, but maybe they should like get less expensive for me to go. But maybe I'll go on tour as a puppeteer in a concert because I know a girl that tours with Coldplay. And she does the...
What?
Well, I don't know her personally, but there's a puppet... I know of a girl. And she, you know, they had her on their tour. I don't even know how long they did that tour for. It was like forever. The recent one. I don't even... Maybe they're not even stopped. Like but they go worldwide. But she has this character, and the character's in a song of theirs. But it's really just Chris Martin's voice, like pitched up. But she does, it's really cool. I think her name is like Star, I got to look it up, Star something. I don't know, look it up.
That's interesting. That's really interesting.
That'd be fun.
When you talk about that as far as puppetry, you know, there's a, I mean, for lack of a better word, there's a puppet on, in the West End with the Paddington musical. I don't know if you've seen this. It's a little person that's in a full costume, and the head has animatronics in it.
I think I saw a video of that.
The voice is off stage, controlling the animatronics of the head.
That's crazy.
But you talk about a synergy of working together when you're walking around doing the motions, and then someone else is controlling the voice and the face and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I would consider that puppetry as well.
Oh yeah, it definitely is.
You know,
that's cool.
I've seen stuff of that. And that's crazy cool.
I mean, even Big Bird. I mean, that's how he was controlled. It's like a person inside, you know, Carol Spinney inside.
With a TV on his belly and one arm
and getting
out,
he probably lost so much weight being in there, sweating to death. Like, you know, it's just like, that's definitely puppetry. And there was a casting call recently for something up in New York that involved kind of like similar to the Paddington, where you're dressed in a costume as a character, but then there's also puppets. Like the puppets then become the bigger, you know, the people, and they were wanting short people. But you have to live in New York to do this particular thing. And I was like, I'm not gonna go up there. It's
not gonna move my family for that.
No, it seemed like fun, but if I was single and I didn't have family and I didn't have a life. Just kidding.
But you do.
No. But yeah, so all that stuff is so cool. And I wouldn't be opposed to doing on stage. I've never done on stage puppetry. You know, people are like, have you done Avenue Q? It's like, no, and I've never seen it. You know, like I
feel like you probably wouldn't do Avenue Q.
No, I wouldn't, because it's, you know, kind of inappropriate.
It's a bit racy.
Yeah.
It's a bit racy.
And I don't want to do stuff like that. Even with Puppet Up is a huge improv thing in LA. And it seems funny, but I know they can kind of like cross the line and I'm just not really into like content like that, you know? I'm like, I'm not really into the adult stuff. Even like when you go on a cruise and you watch a comedy show, some of those shows are so like racy. They're so bad. And I'm like, I don't really want to hear about this. So I don't know. But anyway, but it would be cool to do something like controlling his face. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah.
And I mean, and I've seen a lot of like television commercials, seems like here recently, that have had puppets in it and stuff like that. There was I think Apple did a commercial, and I think it was right around the time when, like, you know, there was all this, and there's still a ton of AI slop that's out there, but they specifically had puppeteers and handmade puppets to create this whole ad for them because they wanted to show the human artistry in making commercials and stuff like that, as opposed to all of this, you know, slop
fake
that is
stuff.
We're bombarded by, you know, daily.
I know. I know a couple of puppeteers that work on like some like commercials and stuff like Aflac, because Aflac Duck is a puppet. Which is pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Once you start researching puppets and stuff, you see it all over the place. You're like, dang, like, wow. That would be cool, though. Yeah, it'd be fun, though, to do something like quirky and fun and be in a commercial. Even just interacting with a puppet, that'd be fun. Because they're cool.
All right, Cara, this is the second segment of the show. This is where we dive a little bit deeper into your mental health journey. I definitely believe the more we talk about it, the lighter it comes for us, but also the easier it is for other folks because they realize they're not alone. So for you, how do you keep the darkness at bay?
Jesus, basically, because I know that I can't do anything on my own. Obviously you could do therapy and you could take medicine. But for me, like he pretty much changed the game for me, but it hasn't been easy, it's just, and sometimes it's difficult to trust God with things that are hard, and, totally just rely on him and not worry. Especially for me, I have anxiety. So but I mean, getting involved in my church and being around people that support me and love me, and including my family. And for me, especially having boundaries with unhealthy, toxic people, whether they're my family or not, that's sort of, what I try to do, It's definitely very challenging, especially nowadays.
I mean, it's, there's a stigma against mental health and stigma against looking for help, but also there's a stigma in Christianity. There's a what I mean? There's
it's everywhere.
It's like you can't please everybody all the time type stuff.
Yeah.
But you have to find out what's right for you and what's working for you, right?
Yeah. And for me, I wasn't a Christian or technically saved until I was in my 20s and married. And, where I finally understood who God was and who Jesus was, and that it wasn't about a religion or these rules and these things and this legalism. And it's completely about a relationship. And then God, shows you that not only the relationship between him and you, but the relationship between you and other people. Having relationship is key, to finding like healing and health and joy. Because like we were saying earlier about isolating yourself, this industry definitely can be very isolating. And I have noticed, and I'll see people post online and, and I'm excited for them. I'm happy for their successes and all this stuff. But it just seems that they just make this thing their everything. And for me, I've slowly realized that, I don't want this to be my everything. This is a tool that God has given me, and he uses me as a vessel to share his light and his love with others and the gospel. But, it can quickly become an idol. And, like anything, like if you're a huge sports fan, if you're, whatever, you really, and just being invested in my church and having my church family and being in the word, every day, trying to be, it really just keeps your path straight. And again, like, obviously not, not like basically surrounding myself with, not only like-minded people, but loving people and encouraging people, because, I have a father who's bipolar. So like, and he did drugs, and it was one of those things where it was kind of a shock to everybody. It probably shouldn't have been a shock to us because, there was something that was off, but, having a dad that wasn't really properly diagnosed early on can really take a toll on people, and on, create these traumas. And these are things I'm having to deal with in therapy, and the other day, just talking to my therapist, and I'm like, I'm 41 years old. Like, why am I upset about, this sort of thing? Or why do I feel bad about, this, like, of thinking differently or being different or not doing what my family was always like, family first, and it's like, why do I feel bad about that? But she's like, well, I mean, because that when you were younger, you were made to feel bad about having certain feelings and certain emotions and being sensitive. And so it's just sort of like, it just goes to show you, if you don't get that healing early, it doesn't mean it's too late to get it. But, you really have to give yourself a break, because for me, I beat myself up all the time about, I should get over this, and it's just like, well, I am, but it's kind of taking a while. And, but I wish that I would have gotten help sooner. Like, I was struggling as a kid with OCD bad. And, my poor mother was like, pretty much when we found out with my dad's stuff, it was later on. And thinking back, I'm like, golly, she was having to deal with a drug addict and didn't even realize, or dealing with him, and he was bipolar, and he wasn't really diagnosed bipolar. And even if he was, he probably wouldn't have taken his medicine. So it's like, she's trying to basically raise an adult, and make sure the lights stay on and make sure this or that. And of course, like, things are going to be pushed to the wayside. Your 5 kids, well, you could provide their needs and have a roof over their head, but maybe not emotionally be there for them, and I don't blame my mom completely. But, those are just things that I think about that obviously for me, in dealing with my children, that's why I'm trying to get better, because I don't want to have things happen to them that happened to me, to where I really, a lot of the times, even in my career, I feel like I'm not good enough. People will give me compliments and say, you're so talented and, you're doing this. And, I was nominated for an award, for my puppetry work in a video. But even looking at the video, I'm like, I'm not as good as a lot of puppeteers. But it's like, but then a part of me is like, but I really picked it up fast. Like, I have this. And my husband's like, you really are good at that, And it's like, because of those things in my childhood, I think I'm just not able to be confident in who I am, but yeah, it's I don't know. It's definitely been a challenging journey, but I'm slowly trying to, kind of discover who I am and find that healing. But
yeah, and I think that self-acceptance part, it is a keystone for a lot of things, but it is sometimes one of the hardest things to do, because you're 10 years younger than I am, but we're in the generation we were kind of raised in. It was a lot of self-reliance. I'm one of the original latchkey kids. We were kind of raising
Nobody
ourselves.
Was home.
And
you just came home and
come home, did your homework, made your dinner, and
That's it.
that type of stuff. And you were kind of had to be responsible for
yourself.
it. And so I think there's a part of us that wants to reclaim the childhood that we didn't feel like we didn't have.
Yeah, because we grieve that. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Because, and in my case, like, I had a parent with mental health issues, and or maybe another parent with mental health issues. Well, basically high anxiety mother, And so, like, I kind of grieve, especially with my dad, because I do have a decent relationship with my mom, but my dad's been very severed. I mean, I've been trying to, it's better now than it was, but, I grieve what I didn't have. Like, of course, my dad was, like I said earlier, supportive in certain things, but like, I don't feel like I was validated enough. And I think that definitely comes into play when I'm doing stuff and when I'm creating a character, when I'm, nominated for an award and, I'm just like wanting that approval, not just from people, but more so from my family. I don't feel that much support, even in my extended family. I feel more support from you, Rob. I mean, and all of my friends that I've met in this beautiful industry. And maybe that's just the way it's going to go, but you will kind of grieve that. I do know that I grieve that, it's, I think that's the hardest part of this all, is knowing, especially in my dad's case, he's just not well off. And so knowing that that's never going to happen, you know what I mean? Like, he's never going to get better. I have to love him where he's at, and God loves him. And God forgives him. And so I have to forgive him. Even though he tore the family apart horribly in what he did, but I'm responsible for my life. And I'm, God is my judge. And, so what I do is my decision. Like I can't change things for my parents. I can't change things for my sisters. It's all separate journeys, but yeah. But it's hard. The grief is the hardest. And they're still, my parents and my dad's still alive. And I grieve that. It's hard,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
And it becomes part of that, I don't want to say self-inflicted,
Mm-hmm.
but, we've put it on ourselves to try and help them too,
Yes.
to be that, inspiration to them to like say, hey, yes, look at me, look how well I'm doing now. You can get better too.
I know.
It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And to kind of love them through it.
Yeah.
Knowing that we can't make that decision for them it's kind of like being a parent to your parent. It's like being a parent to your kids.
Yeah.
Sometimes the hardest, the best learned lessons are the failures.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the lessons that make the impact. And as much as we want to protect them from stuff and say, hey, this is it. I figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
Do this. It's not going to make as much impact as if we're like, okay, all I can do is be the example and let you just see.
Yeah, exactly.
And hope that your eyes open and see that this is kind of what needs to happen.
Yeah. I mean, you just kind of have to, basically we have to give up control. And I think that's hard to do, And for me, my faith comes into it because I know that I'm not in control. But I always have to remind myself, like, I can't do anything to change anybody unless they want to change. And at this point, they definitely don't want to. And so I have to love them where they're at. And for me right now, my focus, I'm going to see my dad this summer, is to just like love him and be, like I said, be the light and love of Jesus and share the gospel with him. And because I am very much more concerned, I can't be concerned about our relationship anymore because it is what it is. But I am concerned about his soul. And so that's the thing that I'm more focused on now, which, I will be so happy if he came to the Lord. That is my goal now, and again, I can only do what I can do. So, but that's kind of what's in my mind for, the next steps for that relationship. It's more so getting him a relationship with Jesus, because he's just it's just very sad. He's a very lonely and hurting person. And, I just want to show him that there's hope, and even if that hope comes towards the end of his life, God waits around for everybody. He gives us so much time to change our ways. So I'm really just praying and trusting, but ultimately it's up to him.
All right, Cara, this is the third segment of the show. It's time now for the Fast Five. The Fast Five. It's time now for the Fast Five. Fast Five. Sorry, I'm still working on the theme song.
Yeah, you should make one.
I really need
I can
some
help you with
that.
it if you want. Yeah.
I would appreciate that. The Fast Five is powered by Poddex. It's an app created by my friend Travis Brown. If you go to chewingthefatbr.com/Poddex, you can get the link to download it. It's great for podcasters, but they're great icebreaker questions as well. So it's 5 random questions, no wrong answers, just the first thing that comes to the top of your head, okay?
Okay,
So
all right.
It's almost like scenes from a hat. It's an improv
Oh,
game.
yeah, that's what it sounds like. Uh-huh.
All right, so you ready for question number 1?
Yep.
Here we go. Where do you go when you need to blow off some steam?
Goodwill. Go shopping.
I mean, you don't. Oh, okay. I was going to say, do you go in and just rant at the workers or something? No, okay.
I'm like, what did you do? No, I go shopping. So usually I'll go to like Goodwill or just to kind of get a break. Yeah. So it doesn't always have to be Goodwill, but yeah, just shopping.
Little retail therapy.
Yeah, a little retail therapy. Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
Question number 2. What do you want your legacy to be?
My legacy. I want my legacy to be, I always kind of think about this. Like, I'm like, what would people say at my funeral? I know it sounds morbid, but I want them to, see God's light through me and be impacted. obviously financially, I want to leave a legacy for my children, which my husband and I have started, because obviously my family was not good at finances. So yeah, just, there's a technical side with the financial part. And then there's also just the spiritual and the Jesus side of things. I just want, I really don't know. I've never really thought about like that, but I always kind of like think about, what would people say? I want to have a big part. I want everybody to have a party and dance and do karaoke at my funeral and just take my ashes and throw it around. No, I'm just kidding. But I tell my kids all the time, do you want to have some of my ashes and you can put it in? And I always say gross things. They're like, ew. But yeah, I just want to I want people to look back and be like, I want them to be inspired by what I did with my life, not based on my works, none of my works, just of who I am, as a person and who God created me to be. Mm-hmm. That's about it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Question number 3. How long would you last on the Great British Baking Show?
Oh, I'm not a huge baker, but I'm decent. I don't think I probably, I really don't know. I wouldn't fail immediately. I know that because I actually know how to cook pretty good. But my husband is a huge baker. Like he's really good at that. For me, I kind of eyeball things. So that's why I'm really good at cooking, and I'm Italian. So I just kind of throw garlic in and I'm like, more garlic, better. Everything. Exactly. It does. Don't you know? No. Definitely wouldn't put garlic in any kind of pies or cakes. But
my lemon garlic cake. You'll love it.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know. Maybe it does work out for some. But yeah, I don't think I would win because I wouldn't get like fancy about it, But I don't think that I would be the first out.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I'd last a decent amount to be proud of. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Question number 4. If someone left you a cottage somewhere in the countryside in their will, where would you want the cottage to be located?
Ooh, geez. My husband and I talk about this because I've always wanted to have a cabin, but then we got the airplane. So he was like, yeah, I don't really want a cabin. You have to do the maintenance. But if somebody left it for me, he would still probably complain that he'd have to do the maintenance. So it'd have to be somewhere kind of close. So I would say somewhere in Tennessee, North Carolina, or North Georgia on a lake.
Okay.
Yep. That would be what I would want. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
And question number 5. Do you prefer live action or cartoon superhero shows?
Oh, cartoons. Yeah.
As a voice actor. I mean.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Can you tell? No. Yeah. No, I don't really care. I mean, they're okay. I've seen a ton of them. All the Marvel stuff and the, Captain America. I used to have a major crush on that actor. What was his name? Chris Evans.
Chris Evans. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I prefer cartoons over Mighty Mouse. I used to have a crush on Mighty Mouse too.
Oh, wow. Here I come to save the day.
Mighty Mouse. Yeah, I used to love Mighty Mouse. He was one of my first crushes. And I actually had a dream as a kid about Mighty Mouse. I was like, ooh, I love him. I love Mighty Mouse. I know. So odd. I don't know what's wrong with me. And and Kermit was one of my first crushes too. So there you go.
I love that.
But yeah.
Okay. Well,
that's it.
That is our Fast Five, and that's the show. Cara, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've been meaning to be on the show for the past few years.
I'm glad it finally worked out.
Yay.
If folks want to keep up with you and all that you've got going on, what's the best place to do that?
Well, I'm chronically online. So I have my website is caraleighty.com. And there you can literally find all my social media. But I'm usually online at Mrs. Leighty. So that's Instagram and TikTok, although my TikTok's kind of messed up now. I don't know what's going on with it. But I am, like I said, chronically online. So.
And then Davey has his own Instagram as well, correct?
Davey has, he has an Instagram. He's linked to mine. So you can find him through mine. But it's Davey the Puppet. So you can find him on there. And yeah, I have a YouTube channel with a bunch of old videos if you want to watch old vlogger style stuff at The Leighty Life on YouTube. And you can make fun of my beginning videos because they're pretty cringy. That my kids would probably be like, this is cringe, you know. Although my family members love watching The Leighty Life. Like they're like, we're watching the old videos. That's kind of why I made it. So then I had memories. So, but yeah, you can find me online. You know, if you look on Rob's Instagram and you find me.
There we go.
I'll be hiding there.
There we go. I'll make sure I put all the links to that in the show notes again. Cara, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you.
I love you, and I wish you nothing but success with everything that you've got going on.
Oh, I love you too, and ditto, all of that.
And if you would like to support this podcast, I'd appreciate it if you bought me a coffee at chewingthefatbr.com. But until next time, I look forward to the chance we have to sit a spell and chew the fat.